going to do my standard intro. This is my standard intro. Welcome. So everybody, welcome to Adorama. To those who are here online, welcome. We are very lucky today to have Mark Wallace, who you all know from many things, but also from Adorama TV, of course. He's come back to New York to talk to us for a little bit as part of his journeys here. He's been traveling for the last 2 years, and he's going to tell you all about it. So for Mark's videos, for any other great content, make sure you check out our YouTube channel. You guys probably already are. Adorama, was it youtube.com/AdoramaTV?
AdoramaTV.com.
Or AdoramaTV.com also goes there, apparently, which
Yeah.
I've just learned now. This is like my 20th intro, and I'm just learning this. This is good, though. Well, Mark's
3 years.
He's been doing it longer than I have. So it's going to be a good time. After Mark's done talking, he's going to hang out for a little bit, and shake hands or whatever, I guess.
Yeah, I'm just going to hang out.
And hang out and drink.
I'll be
If
here as
you
long as
want
you
to bring
are.
beer or whatever, he'll hang out.
Yeah,
He's into
longer.
that. As long as it's the good stuff. So
Yeah.
thanks for coming. If I'll be in the back if anybody needs me, and enjoy this.
Thanks, Daniel. Awesome. Well, I'm just curious, how many people here have seen me on some YouTube video? Okay, most people, so no pressure. Gosh. So if you haven't, and by the way, we're streaming to the world, so there are people that aren't in this room that are watching us right now, and so they are looking at us. If you're not familiar, I am on Adorama TV, but I'm also on a bunch of other places. So if you haven't connected with me on Facebook, that's where you can find out all the new and latest stuff. And then also I have a bunch of workshops at snapfactory.com that you can download that are full length. Some of them are like 12 hours long, so check that out very much. All right, so I'm going to tell you about my trip around the world over 2 years. And it all begins with 6 shirts. And what I mean by that is that years ago, in mid-2013, around there, I met a friend. Her name is Lex, that you'll see her. She's just on the video, actually. And we were both talking about taking some trips around the world. She was headed to South America. I was headed to the Himalayas. And we started talking, and eventually, over several months, decided that we each would individually sell and give away everything we owned and basically live out of backpacks and travel around the world for an indefinite amount of time. And so we did that. So 6 shirts, that's the amount of shirts I own. I own 6 shirts, 2 pairs of pants. These shoes, I recycle shoes about every 3 months because I'm walking so much. And I've got a backpack and camera, and that's about it. So everything I own in the world would fit in this space right here. So the studio gear, I kept that, but I loaned it out to all my photographer friends. So I've just sort of been living this nomadic lifestyle, and it is wonderful. No house payment, no car payment, none of that kind of stuff. So that's sort of where the journey began, and this is where we've gone so far. You can see here, we've gone all the way around the world, but you can see that Africa, the Middle East, Eastern Europe, China, Mongolia, Kazakhstan, Japan, Indonesia. There are just a lot of places, Canada, Alaska, Hawaii, a lot of places that have been unexplored. And so I'm going to continue the journey. I'm just on a break right now, and I'm going to tell you about that later on after I tell you all about what we've done so far. So here are the countries that I visited. Now, I think on the promo we said 25 countries in 2 years, and I messed up because when I counted them, I forgot some countries. Like I forgot France, which is funny because we lived there for 10 weeks. So I just sort of forgot it, and I forgot what other country. But it's been actually 28 countries all told over 2 years. And this is Lex. So I didn't do it alone. Lex went with me. She traveled with me about 9 months out of the year, and she's an herbalist. She's now, by the way, a med student, so she's not traveling anymore, so now I'm going to go solo. But the question that I want to talk about tonight is why. So we talk a lot, and if you've seen any of my videos, I talk about what and how all the time, what camera gear, how you do it, over and over and over. And this is a topic I really don't get to talk about very much, and that is why I take pictures and why I think you should take pictures as well. And so that's what we're going to do, and then we're going to get to, because I know everybody wants to know about which lens to take and how to do this and that kind of stuff. We're going to get there. I'm going to save all of that stuff for the question and answer time, and we've got a lot of time for Q&A, and we've got people on the interwebs that are going to be asking questions as well. So, but first I want to talk about why, because I don't think it's talked about enough. Now here's a quote that every photographer on earth has ever said, and it is this: photography is my passion. And you've probably heard some photographers say this. Like, I'm just passionate about photography. That's my passion. That's what I want to do. That's my life. And that is not me at all. I am not passionate about photography, which I know seems odd from Mr. Photography Man, but that's not my passion. That is not what I'm about. I believe in this. So I believe that through art, I can change humanity in a positive way, in like real tangible ways. I think that art, and my art is photography, but I think through storytelling, through art, through documentary filmmaking, through painting, all those types of things, there are avenues to help people, other people. And so that's really what I'm about. I'm about these three things: education, collaboration, and inspiration. So that's what we're doing here tonight. We're learning some things, and we're meeting each other so we can collaborate. And I'm guessing that you'll meet other people in this room that will inspire you a lot more than I would be able to do, because there are always so many really interesting people. So that's really what I'm about, because what I've learned by talking to people that have watched videos or have seen a workshop that I've done, I hear stories all the time about how they've learned something from me. Maybe they've learned something from Brian Peterson, they've learned something from Gavin Hoey, they've learned something from their photo club. And through that journey, they've been able to leave a job maybe they didn't like, to do something that was meaningful, or they've been able to do some photojournalism that tells the story of a community. Specifically, I know of some people that did a story about some kids that were living in brothels in India, and they were able to help those kids get out and have their own lives. There's like all kinds of things like that. And so that's what I mean when I say I think that art can be used to change humanity in a positive way. And that's really what I'm trying to do with everything. So any Adorama video that you've ever seen or anything on Creative Live, what I'm trying to do is to help inspire and educate people so that they can do those types of things. And so that's the why for me. That's really where this started. So this is a quote from a friend of mine. His name is Louis Giglio. And he said that passion is the degree of difficulty that we're willing to endure to accomplish the goal. And I think that's the best definition of passion there is. It's like, what is it that you'll do to get to where you want to go? And so a few years ago, when I started thinking about traveling, I had this very specific thing that I wanted to do. And I'm passionate about that. And I was willing to sell everything I own to get there. And the cost was really, really high. I had to leave my friends, had to sell my house, all my possessions, all of those types of things. And the thing I wanted to do is this. This is a new word perhaps for some of you, and it's Umwelt. All right, so I went to a thing called Being Human, and it was all about humanity and talking to each other. So these guys talked about Umwelt, and it's this term that biologists use, and I find it fascinating. So here's the actual definition. So Jacob and Thomas, I can't see their last names, they define it like this. They said it's the biological foundations that lie at the very epicenter of the study of both communication and signification of human and non-human animals. So let me describe that in normal terms. So what Umwelt is the way that we interact with our environment. So in this room, we can all smell, we can feel the heat here, we can hear. All of those things give us this experience. That's our Umwelt. But let's say we had somebody that came in here who was blind. They would be in the exact same room, in the exact same environment, but their Umwelt is different. So they'd be experiencing this room in a way that's different than you or I are experiencing this same environment. Same would be true of somebody that was deaf, or maybe somebody that had some other disability. So the way we perceive the world around us changes based on different circumstances. So you can be in the exact same place with a different perception than the person that's sitting right next to you. Now that's true of the physical world, but it's also true of our mental lens. And so this is where I think this really applies to photography. So we have our own mental lens, and that is what's created by our experiences and our beliefs, our convictions, and those things. And no two of those lenses are the same. So if you think about Umwelt and the way that we interact with our environment, think about that in a way that we interact with the world around us through our convictions and our experiences and how we point our cameras at different things, because it'll be different. I'll give you an example. Let's just say we took a random sampling of Americans from California to Alabama, maybe up to up New England. We took maybe 10 people. And we took all those people and we put them on a bus and we took them to a Donald Trump rally. I guarantee you, those 10 people would have radically different experiences. Some of them would be very excited, some of them would be very angry, some of them would be wondering what the heck's going on. And so you would have the same exact environment, but those people would have different experiences based on their mental lens. Their Umwelt is different. And so for me, I learned this from a guy named Matt Hell, and it's this: everything you do informs everything else you do. Everything you see, everything you read, every conversation you have, every movie you watch, every news story you see, everywhere you travel, all of that stuff informs everything you do. And so it informs the way we take pictures, it informs the way we tell stories, it informs the way we have interactions with other people. And so for me, this trip was all about Umwelt. That's why I did this. That's why I said I'm passionate about this, because I want to become a well-informed person. I want to know about other cultures. I want to know about other foods, other traditions. I want to learn a new skill as a photographer. So I don't know if you remember this, I used to only shoot in the studio. Now I only shoot with natural light. What a huge shift that was. I used to shoot with high-end, digital SLRs. Now I'm shooting with rangefinder cameras. And so there were all kinds of things that I thought, the thing that I really want to do is, I've been teaching people for years, but really I need to spend some time to teach myself some things. And the best way I can do that is to expand my Umwelt. And so here's sort of the crux of the trip for me. And that is this. So I travel to inform myself, and I make photos to inform others. And that is why I take pictures. So I want to go, I want to learn, I want to meet people, I want to understand the culture, and then to the best of my ability, I want to inform others who aren't able to go and see and do those things. So I stole that, by the way, from a guy named James Noctway. So if you don't know who James Noctway is, he's got a credo that talks about this, and it's fascinating. So that's the trip. I wanted to go and inform myself, learn other cultures, learn from other people, become inspired, and then I could take that and pass it along to you and other people. So here are some things I learned along the way. Number one is this: the people in the next country are okay. And the people in the country after that, they're okay too. And the country after that, they're fine. And so we, especially as Americans, have a, what's the right word? Because I know I'm going to get in trouble on the internet for saying this. We have not a very well-informed view of the world. I think that's a good way to say that. And so I wanted to try to figure that out. And the thing that I discovered was it's not just Americans, but a lot of people have an uninformed view of their neighbors. And so I would go to, let's say, Ecuador, and the Ecuadorians would say, the Colombians are crazy, don't go there. Then I go to Colombia, and the Colombians like, Venezuela, nuts, don't go there. If you go to Venezuela, they're like, Brazil, those guys are crazy. And it's true in America, it's the same thing. If you go to Alabama, they're going to tell you how crazy Georgia is, and Georgia's going to tell you how crazy, Florida is, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. So we always have this fear of the guys next door. But the truth is, at least in my experience, is we all want similar things. We want to have a healthy life, we want to feed our families, we want to have kids, we want to have a good life, and we want to live in peace for the most part. Everywhere in the world. I think if you went to North Korea, you would find that's true. So it's something that's, I think, misrepresented, and it's an interesting thing to travel and see that. The other thing I learned is that the world is not as scary as you think it is. And so an example of this, I went to Colombia, which is a magnificent place. Has anybody been to Colombia? Is it not amazing? It's colorful, it's musical, the food is wonderful, it's warm, the people are awesome. But my friends said, "Are you nuts? The drug cartels are gonna shoot you." First of all, that ended 20 years ago, so that's sort of over. But the people there are pretty much like we are. They are very much peace-loving kind of people. And I found that over and over and over, places I would go, people would say, "Are you crazy? You can't go there. You're going to be kidnapped, you're going to be shot, you're going to be mugged, you're going to be," the list was going on and on and on. And in the entire world, Lex and I were talking about where did we feel the most unsafe. And we really didn't feel unsafe anywhere. unless we went to a really bad neighborhood, which you wouldn't do in the United States, right? You wouldn't go to South Compton, or I don't know where the crazy place is here now, in the middle of the night. You would just stay in the places that aren't crazy. And that's the same thing of places around the world. So the world is not as scary as you think it is. And so I challenge anybody who's thinking about traveling but not doing it because it's dangerous to just become informed about where you're going and then take a trip. You'll find out it's amazing. The other thing I found out is the world is a lot scarier than you think it is. So it is, and I was thinking this morning, how can I explain this in a way that's sort of politically not offensive? I don't think there is a way to say it this way. But what I found is there are places, so I was in Berlin for a while, I was in Cambodia for a while, I was in Vietnam for a while, in places that genocide had happened. And I think the thing that was interesting to me specifically was Cambodia, because that happened in my lifetime, so the genocide there. And what I found is that to the best of my understanding of the history of those places and talking to the people that had lived through it, that there's this slippery slope that when our minds become closed to ideas that are outside of our own belief system, things go wrong and sideways very quickly. And so it's very interesting to see how that happens. Rwanda, if you guys haven't read about Rwanda, there's a book called We're Sorry to Inform You That Tomorrow We Will Be Killed with Our Families. I know you didn't come for a political talk, but read that book and you'll see how things just rapidly, you can have a country that just erupts. And so that was really eye-opening to see that, wow, we have to really be vigilant about how we treat other people and how we share our ideas, because if we don't, things can go really wrong really, really quickly. And so that is a scary thing that I've seen in some parts of the world. The other thing that I've learned is this. I've talked to many, many people about travel, and I get the same thing all the time. Man, I would love to do what you're doing. I'd love to just go and explore the world. My answer is, you can. Anybody can do it, but you just consider the cost. So if you want to go and travel the world like I have, it just costs you everything you have. That's the price, but you can do it. The thing is, if once you consider that cost, you don't want to do that. And that's the thing, we do what we want to do. So you might wish that you could travel the world or do something like that and have that freedom. But the reality is, yeah, you probably want to do other things that are a higher priority, like take care of your kids or get an education or things like that. And so that leads me to this thing, and that's this, you're living the dream. Because I hear that all the time. Oh man, you're living the dream, that's amazing. I think that's a myth. And the way I sort of explain this to people is my brother. So my sister, where is Heather? That's my sister back there. So I have a brother, I have 3 sisters and a brother, and my brother is the polar opposite of me. I think is the best way to say it. So he's been in the same industry for 30-something years. He's been married for, how long has he been married? 30 years, something like that. Long time. He's got 2 kids. He's lived in 2 places since high school. He doesn't travel at all. He plans everything meticulously before he does anything. And so on the surface, you could look at my life. So I'm this crazy guy that goes all over the world and rides a motorcycle and, does all these things. And this guy, my brother, who just goes to work 9 to 5, comes home, feeds his family, goes to bed, and does that again and again and again and again and again and again for 30 years. And you'd think, man, this guy is not living the dream. That is absolutely not true. He's living his dream, which is to have a fantastic family, to raise kids, to make sure they are well taken care of, that they're educated, that they have a great upbringing, that his wife is taken care of, that they're loved, all those things. That's what he wants to do. That's his dream. I think as far as difficulty goes, that's the hard thing. I could never do that. I don't think I have it in me to do that. Well, I know I don't have it in me to do that. He does. And so when people tell me, oh, you're living the dream and it's awesome, I think, probably not. Probably the people that are working everyday jobs, taking care of their families, doing those things, they're doing the thing that I'm not capable of doing, and they're living the dream. So I think it's dangerous to sort of single out people like me as the rock star people, because I think we're the strange, wacky people in this whole thing. So I mentioned earlier that I didn't do this by myself. I went with my friend Lex. She's in med school, by the way, now. And so we knew when we started that we would be able to travel for about 2 years. And she was been in school the entire time we were traveling. And so about last May, around there, we knew that she was going to have to come back to the United States, get into school. And so I wasn't ready to stop traveling. So my next adventure is this. So I have purchased a fancy motorcycle, and I'm going to go ride around the world on my motorcycle. So 6 continents on a motorcycle starting, I think, Wednesday is when that starts. So I'm going to fly from here, go there. So this is being customized right now. It's in the shop. We're putting all kinds of stuff, and you can read about that on markonabike.com, which has nothing on it yet. I just had to get the domain so I could talk to you guys, and so when people saw it a month from now. But that's the next thing. So I'm going to try to ride 6 continents on a motorcycle and document that process and see what it's like. I don't know if I'll make it or not. I don't know how long I'm going to be gone, but I think it'll be pretty fun. All right, that's enough of the politics. I'm sure you want to know about the photography stuff, right? Yes, you're like, please. So this is the stuff I started with. I started with a Canon 5D Mark II and a Canon 70-200, a 16-35, and a 24-70. And what I discovered is that the gear was heavy, but more than heavy, it was just big. It was just big. These cameras were huge. And so that required me to put, like the 70-200 had to fit in my backpack. I'll show you that. So I had a backpack on the front and a backpack on the back. So it had to go in the backpack. Some of the video gear that I was taking wouldn't fit. There were all kinds of issues with that. So I decided I'd have to change things. But before I tell you what I got, let me tell you what the stuff is that has stuck with me this entire time. So if you're going to go on any kind of trip for a week, Alaska, that kind of stuff, this is what I suggest that you take for sure. A tripod is number 1 on the list, I would say. Make sure you take a tripod. The tripod is going to allow you to shoot in low light, do time-lapse stuff. It's going to allow you to do things, scenic photography, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. And between a tripod and a speed light, tripod wins every time. Because a tripod, you'll be able to do mountain ranges and big scenic stuff. A speed light is going to work in a small environment, and that's it. So if you have to choose between one of those two things, a tripod. And even a not a very good tripod is better than no tripod. And now you can get small travel tripods for really inexpensive. I actually have one that I use all the time, and I think I paid $20 for it. This guy right here. Yeah. So this is a little Coleman. But yeah. Yeah, so that's I think I paid $20 for this. I don't know, I think they have them back there. But that tripod is awesome. Or you can have a larger tripod, but a tripod is the thing that you have to have. The other thing, the camera that I've used more than any camera on this trip is my iPhone. So I use my iPhone constantly. And so there are pictures that I take for professional work. So that's, you know, whatever, the mountains and the scenery and that kind of stuff. But for documenting every single day, this is where we stayed, this is what we did, this food was horrible, this food was great, this was funny, so-and-so fell asleep here. That kind of stuff. iPhone. And I can just, it's really funny to go through iPhoto and just look and see where I was, what we were doing, what happened, remembering Wi-Fi passwords, what room that we were staying in, or where I parked the car, all that kind of stuff. iPhone. So, or Android, whatever it is. That is, I think, the best camera for just having memories. And I think if you're going on a trip and really you're trying to debate what camera to take because you want to have this wonderful time with your family, and I know I'm in a camera store, I'm going to get in trouble. Leave your camera at home and just take your iPhone and have a good time with your family. And if you want to take pictures, then take your camera and leave your family at home. But if you have to choose, the iPhone is the best for that, or the Android. The bag, I have this 10 by 24 liter shootout bag. That is super heavy. This thing has been all over the world, and it is fantastic. That's the bag I use. But just make sure you get a really good bag. Don't chintz out on your bag, because you're going to be using it every single day. The other thing that I use for a camera bag is a Deuter day pack. So Deuter, they're hiking backpacks that you'll get at like REI or whatever sports store. And the thing about camera bags is you can spot them from a mile away. Everybody knows it's a camera bag, specifically people that want to steal your camera bag. And so what I do is I'll take my camera out of the camera bag and stick it in my day pack, which looks like a hiker bag. I don't have it here, but that's what I use to walk around the street and stuff, and it looks like something you'd put bananas or a bottle of water or something in. So that's what I highly suggest you do that. The other thing, good shoes are very, very important. Make sure you get them. And then I store everything on LaCie rugged hard drives, and I have bunches of them, but these things are nearly indestructible, and you can get them Thunderbolt, you can get USB 3, depending on whatever computer you have. So I've got stickers all over this one because Lex put them on there so I wouldn't forget her. So it looks like a little child's hard drive. People are like, what is on there? Lex did that. And then also a fantastic computer. I think the MacBook Pro 13-inch for editing videos, editing stills, that kind of stuff is spectacular. I tried using an iMac, an iPad Air, which is awesome if you're a writer. But if you want to do photos or video, it's just not powerful enough. So I think this is the best travel computer for people that have to do this kind of stuff. I switched, by the way, and I have taken a lot of, a lot of crap for this. So I switched to a Leica, and I have been shooting with a Leica for a little over a year, and the response has been overwhelming. Why would you do that? Why would you buy an $11,000 camera to replace your camera? And the answer is, A, it's really small, so it's really, really small. $11,000, crazy. So it's really small, but it doesn't look, it looks like my dad's camera. So most people don't know that that's a really fancy camera. The quality is spectacular. The lenses are the best in the industry. You can't buy better lenses than Leica lenses. And they're almost indestructible, so they're weather sealed. You can use them for any condition. But mainly, they just don't draw any attention. So you can do street photography. Who was asking me earlier, how do I take pictures and not get beat up on the street? The answer is this. I just use a small camera. It's not intrusive. I can get right there and take a picture. But I love this. The other thing about the Leica that I love is it's a rangefinder camera. So you don't look through the lens. You look through the rangefinder, which is this little window up here. And it's a completely different experience in shooting. So you're looking through this. And I've actually made the mistake. In Prague, it's funny, I did a workshop. And so there was this big parade going by, and I was telling everybody, yeah, I had a wide-angle lens. If you want to do this, you have to get into the crowd and blah, blah. I'm like, this is how you do it. And I went marching through this big protest, and I was taking pictures and being all macho. And I got back, and somebody's like, your lens cap's on. So you can't tell that the lens cap's on because you don't look through the lens. So it was awesome. They're like, yeah, we paid you for that. Anyway, so the thing with this is you can look through this, and you can see what the camera's going to capture, but then you can see more than that. And so you can anticipate what's going to happen, what's coming in and out of the frame. It's all manual. It's 100% manual. So manual focus, manual aperture. These don't even have any electronics in them. And so in aperture, it doesn't tell you what the aperture value is in EXIF data because it doesn't know. There's no electronics in the lens. It's crazy. But because there are no electronics in the lens, they're really small. And so really, really small. They're not very light. But here, you can pass this around. You guys can feel that. Just make sure I get it back. Yeah, there's a guard somewhere here. But anyway, yeah, you can feel it. It's heavier than you might expect. But it's such a wonderful shooting experience because a couple of things that I've learned. I'm shooting predominantly now with shorter lenses, 35 millimeter lens, 21 millimeter lens, maybe a 50, and then on a very rare occasion, I'll shoot with the 135. But what that means is the shorter lens, it requires you to actually become immersed in your environment. You have to actually get close, and you have to interact with whatever you're shooting. If that's animals or people or the scenery, you got to hike up the mountain. You got to get close. You have to get close. And so, Robert Capa, if your photos aren't good enough, you're not close enough. And this really requires you to get close, and I love that. So I've got 4 lenses, the 21, the 35, the 50, and the 135. And if you're not a Leica geek, you don't know what those other things are, don't worry about it. But this is, if you want, ask me afterwards, and I'll show you all these lenses, and you can see that. So that's what we have. All right, we're going to look at some lenses. We're going to look at some images, and I'm going to walk you through some of the things that I shot and how I shot them. And during this time, feel free to ask questions. All right, so I'll start going through this stuff. But if you have some questions about what I'm showing, don't worry, just ask it. And we have a microphone here, by the way, so if you have a question, we want you to use a microphone so that the people on interwebs can hear you. So without further ado, let me show you some pictures. Where's my mouse? There it is. Okay, this is Quito, Ecuador, which is a wonderful city. So this was a challenge. This was shot with my Canon, and this was shot with a 16 to 35. So the first year I traveled with a 5D Mark II, or 5D Mark III. This was shot with the 16 to 35. There's a video of this. Almost all these images, there's a video that goes along with them. But the thing about this image that really helped me expand my photo skills was that it really required a lot of work beforehand. So I had to hike all over the city to find a vantage point that showed me this. And this city, by the way, is like 10,000 feet above sea level. It's like like it's horrible. So I actually had to hike all over. And then once we figured it out, we had to hike back up there. I had to shoot it. And then we had to do it again. Because the little secret is sometimes when I shoot videos, I'm like, hey, I'm doing this. I've actually done it like the day before, and we're reenacting it. That happens sometimes. And that happened in this video. And so I had to climb up that stupid hill, I think 4 times. And it doesn't look very tall, but it's like Everest. So that was amazing. The other thing that was really fun about this is that I learned that you just have to be patient and wait for the clouds and the light and the scene to be what it is so that it works. And there's no way around that. You can't change that at all. An example of that is in, see if I can get there.
What time of day?
That was right before sunset at golden hour. And, oh yeah, here it is. So yeah, that was right at golden hour. So this is this little place called the Taj Mahal in India. And we were in Agra for 2 days. And it was just the worst weather. And that's it. That's all I could get. The sky never, ever, ever got better than that. So at sunrise, it was all overcast and nasty. At sunset, overcast and nasty. Midday, overcast and nasty. So there was no cloud, ever. And so that's the bummer. So if you want to go to a place, the Grand Canyon or Niagara or Iguazu Falls or whatever it is you want to go take a picture of, make sure you have enough time that if the weather is no good, that you can go the next day or the next or the next or the next. This, I don't think the weather improved in like the 3 weeks we were in India. So that would have been a bummer if I would have flown there to shoot that, because that's it. That's all I could have gotten. The other thing I discovered, this is in Ireland. I think this is Moore's Castle. That was as much sun as I ever saw in Ireland. It was just torrential downpour for the entire time I was there. And so I just couldn't shoot anything. There was no sun, there was no color, there was nothing. And so this was the best I could do just to show how bad the sky was. But the sky was just this white, overcast, nasty, horrible, ugly sky, which is horrible because Ireland is one of the most beautiful places on earth. So what I learned that I could do is just point the camera at the ground. And so it was wet because it had been raining and raining and raining. And so the water acts as a nature's own neutral density filter, basically. And so I could shoot the reflection of the sky, and I could get shots like this or this. I could get shots like, is that coming up there? Yeah. Or this. So that worked. But if I actually showed the sky, it was really, really horrible. So that was another lesson I learned. Well, if the sky is horrible, just don't shoot the sky. And you might get something that works. Or on occasion, you might have just one lucky shot like this. This was shot on the same day that it was raining. It stopped raining for about 5 minutes, I think. But notice, there's no sky in this shot. None. It's just the scene. I think my phone is ringing. Yeah, my phone is ringing. Isn't that awesome? I'll just let it go to voicemail. All right. The other thing that's awesome about cloudy skies is that you can shoot fantastic portraits. So this guy here had a few Guinness beverages, and so I chatted with him. He was in this little place somewhere in Ireland, and I asked him to smile, and that's what I got. So, yeah, I wasn't sure what he was saying because he had a really strong Irish accent, and he'd had a few. So, but it was awesome. The other thing I learned is when shooting places that are popular like Machu Picchu, you'll find this at Yellowstone, Machu Picchu. You'll find it at any large landmark. I guess the Great Wall of China, although I haven't been there, I would guess this is true. The Grand Canyon, Golden Gate Bridge, you name it. There are people everywhere. So this was shot right as the sun came up over the mountains. So there's this huge mountain range on this side that the sun has to go over. So you can see this is really long shadows. So this was shot early in the morning. If I could zoom in, you can see there are people all over the place here. But here's what it looks like in Machu Picchu. There are people everywhere. They're just everywhere. And so that just sort of comes with the territory. If you're going to shoot something and you think it's going to be, a shot that you have in your mind from the travel magazines that look like that, that is not what it's going to look like. It's going to look like crazy, chaotic tourist site. And so just be prepared for that. One of the things you can do is you can set up a tripod, long exposure with a neutral density filter, and the movement of the people will blur them out, and so they don't show up. My phone is still ringing. How did I leave my phone on this whole time? Sorry. Let me just shut this off. Didn't I set this on Don't Disturb? It's my dad. He's probably watching. Hi, Dad. I hope you're not. All right. That's funny. So, Heather, maybe you can call Dad later. That's hilarious. He's like, I see you, son. That's great. Yeah, he's 84. He's wonderful. Anyway, the other thing that I've learned about shooting anywhere in the world is if you take your camera and you shoot the thing that you want to shoot, like Machu Picchu, and then you just turn the other way, you'll get shots like this. That's the shot nobody shows you. Machu Picchu has these amazing mountains around. And I thought the mountain ranges were more impressive than Machu Picchu, but try to shoot the thing that you've seen a million times, because how many people have seen an image like this? Everybody, right? That's the shot of Machu Picchu that we all know. But how many people have seen a shot that looks like this? Maybe not so many people. So try to do that as well. Another thing that I learned about shooting around the world, and this goes back to my, my value of becoming informed and then trying to inform others, is you have to be really, really careful how you present a country or a place. For example, this was shot in India, in a town called something. I can't remember where I was. Anyway, this was in India. And you would think that this was like, these are very holy men and they're at this shrine and all this stuff is really going on. These are actually guys that just dress up like this and you pay them to take a picture. They're not any kind of holy anything. They're just dudes. They're actors, basically. And so, I could show this and people are like, oh, it's just a very religious place. But no, it's a place where people, you just pay them to take pictures. And so you could easily misguide somebody. The other thing is a place like anywhere in Asia, the discrepancy between wealth and poverty is dramatic. And so you have very, very wealthy individuals, you have very, very poor individuals, and not a lot in between. And so it's easy to go and show this as India. You'd say, okay, India is this place where everything is hand-drawn carts and oxes and these guys that have to, carry stuff that's really heavy. It's these people that are weighed down by the burden of their day. And that's true. But that's only a part of India. That's only a part of it. India is a very colorful, wonderful, amazing place. And so the first trip I took to India in 1999, I think, I only took pictures like that. I only took pictures of homeless people and people that were very poor because I thought, well, we all know what everything else looks like because that's where we live. And the response from Indians was overwhelming. Why are you lying about our country? Because it's more than that. And I learned a valuable lesson there is if you're going to show something that's horrific, show that, but make sure it's in context with the place and the environment. Yes, sir?
How did you just decide on whether you want to do black and white or color?
Well, black and white, there are a few things. So when I'm doing a black and white image, specifically for this kind of portraiture, so this is an environmental kind of portraiture of these people, one, this is a really contrasty light. And so contrast loves black and white. And that's number one. Number two, it adds a little bit of drama to the photo and takes out a little of the humanity. And so that's sort of the reasoning of that. And so it really, it's easier for us to look at that and not go, oh my gosh, this is horrible for some reason. And if you look at the work of James Nachtwey, if you look at the work of Robert Capa, if you look at the work of a lot of photojournalists, specifically from the 60s and 70s and earlier, it's black and white. And I'm sure you're thinking, well, in World War II, everything was black and white, but that's not true. It was also in color. They predominantly shot black and white because the publications were in black and white. That's why they did that, not because they didn't have the technology. But it's a little more, I think, humane, and it's a little bit more dramatic. So that's my thinking. Okay, a couple other things about the trip and the food. Does anybody know what that is? Cuy. Yes, it's a delicious treat. It's guinea pig. Yeah, so one of the things that I learned in traveling is just to try it. So cuy is delicious. Alpaca, delicious. I did not try this, though. That is a dog. Oh, I know, so sad. Back to the guinea pig, that's more humane. But yeah, so in different parts of the world, you have different things that are cooked. And it's interesting to try to understand why it's acceptable to eat this animal and not this animal in some parts of the world and not others. And so it's really interesting. This is in South America. Cuy is very popular there and delicious. And this is in Vietnam. That's where that was. And so that's how that works. And by the way, that's in some places, that is as sanitary as it gets. Just a cardboard box out in the open, chop it up, have your lunch. And you will get sick doing that. So anyway, okay. The other thing I will show you, this is in the Galapagos Islands. I shot these birds. I am not a bird photographer. I don't like these bird photographs. I don't find them interesting at all, but I'll show them to you anyway because I made a video about it and pretended like I was interested. But these were all shot with a 70 to 200 millimeter lens in the Galapagos. But I think my favorite bird photo is this one. And it was shot with my iPhone, which is great. Yeah. So, yeah, I think iPhone shots are fantastic. And so if I didn't say this is an iPhone shot, you probably would have gone, oh, it's cropped a little bit differently. But yeah, we were at a place that I just couldn't bring my big camera, and I shot this, and I shot a bunch of video. In fact, if you look on Adorama TV, there's a video about all these bird photos. You'll see these birds and a bunch of videos of these birds, and it was all shot with the iPhone. And so don't worry about shooting with the iPhone and the stigma that might come with that. Also, one of the things I loved about traveling were the people that I got to meet. This guy on the left here, his name is Joey Joyner. And if anybody follows me on Facebook or Twitter, you've probably seen Joey say something. He's probably watching right now. Joey, we did something illegal. But when I bought the Leica stuff, oh, by the way, I bought it. So people were like, oh, Adorama gave me a Leica, I'd take it too. But no, I actually bought it. So I had to pay for it and save up and all that stuff. So when I bought the Leica stuff, to get stuff to South America, if you ship it, probably it's not going to make it there. And if it does, you're going to have to pay a massive amount of taxes. And so what we did instead was Joey's wife, Sarah, she is from Buenos Aires. So they got all my Leica stuff, put it in a bag, and just flew it down there, and we hung out. And these guys right here, they are some fantastic photographers. That's Martin Apelde and Mag Alvarez. And they had shot in Patagonia. And so this guy taught me all about shooting Patagonia. And then I learned from him, and then I went and did it, and then I made a video and taught you guys. So that's sort of that chain of learning and inspiring and going. The other thing I really loved about shooting, I was in Prague, and I was trying to make a video by myself. And this guy, his name is Thanos, walked up on the bridge and said, "Oh, you're Mark Wallace." And I'm like, "Yeah, can you run the video camera?" He said, "Sure." And so we became friends. And Andrea is his girlfriend, and you might recognize her in one of the videos. She was this model right here. But I met those guys I was standing on a bridge, and they walked up and said hi. And next thing you know, they invited me to their house, and they cooked me a meal, and they made 2 videos with me. It was fantastic. And the same is true in Cartagena. These guys, what a wonderful little couple. They helped me out with the video, and their friend, this is Carolina, and this is Daniela and Oscar, which is really cool. And I also got to meet this caveman, Brian Peterson. He was cool. We hung out in Paris. That was a fun time. And then this guy here, you might recognize him. I got to stay at his house for a couple days. And that's his wife, Sam, in the back. She is awesome. So we had just a blast. So that's one of the things I love about traveling are just the people and the fun and all of those things. All right, I've talked enough. I am ready for any questions that you have about shooting, any video that you've seen, if you have a question about that. I know we have people online that have perhaps questions. So anything that you want to ask, most anything, I am game to hear. So are there any, do you have questions online to get us started?
If you use a GPS tracker when you're traveling, if you do or don't, explain why.
Oh yeah, so do I use a GPS tracker when traveling? This right here is a GPS watch, yes. So this is a Garmin Fenix 3, and I do use it sometimes. And so this guy, what I'm able to do is, in cities that are crazy, especially in India, in some of the old streets there, I can just hit a button and it marks the location of where I am. And then I can walk about and do whatever. And then maybe if you've had some drink that makes you disoriented, like beer, lots of beer, and you don't know how to get back, you can just push this and it'll tell you how to get back. And so I use it for that. Or I'll mark waypoints of where different things are in the city through the Garmin stuff. On the motorcycle, I am using, and I actually rode my motorcycle to the airport to fly here, so I have this GPS, but I have a Garmin, actually it's the BMW Navigator thingy, but yeah, I've got a GPS for that as well. The nice thing about Garmin devices is they have what are called tracks, and you can export a file, I think it's a GPX file, and then Lightroom recognizes that, and you can import that, and it will match your track with the time you took your photos, and it'll geotag your photos if you don't have GPS on your camera. It's really cool. I made a video about that, so Google it, and it's on Adorama TV. So yeah, I use GPS. All right, any other questions here? Or there? No? Yes?
So you had a couple of photos of...
Or we're gonna give you this so people on the line, yeah, yes.
You had a couple of photos from India of street scenes and things like that that looked like you were relatively close. I mean, do you typically, I'm guessing you didn't ask permission for photographing all those people, or did you? Or have you ever had somebody who like went ballistic because they saw you were photographing them, anything like that?
Let me see if I can find really fast. So don't put this up yet. Let me see if I can find, I can show you exactly how close I was, because Lex took pictures of me. All right. Yeah, so you can see here, there we go. Yeah, I'm really close. And so that's about how I'm working is like that, where I'm pretty darn close to the subject. I do talk to the people I take pictures of as much as possible. And so I think that's because the why is I want to learn and interact and understand somebody. So as much as possible, if I take a picture of someone, I have a conversation with them either before or after. And as much as I possibly can, I'll ask their permission to make sure they're okay. But if I sense any kind of unease, I won't take the photo. So I don't always ask permission. I wouldn't want to say that. But as much as I possibly can, I want to have some kind of conversation with the people. Yes. But yeah, very, very, very close.
I have a question.
Yes.
Yes. So you switched from Canon, which is mostly you're using probably autofocus, to Leica camera, and you showed us your lenses are manual.
Yes.
Did you ended up with autofocus shots for a few months before getting a grip? It's a very different game.
Yeah. I spent a solid, I think, 2 weeks every day practicing in Buenos Aires when I first got the camera. And I would say it took me about 8 months before I was comfortable shooting with the camera. And I mean shooting every single day. But the thing with these lenses, specifically the wide angle lens, see if I can grab that. By the way, where is my camera? Did you ever get past the back? It's back there? Okay. Yeah. So I want that back before I leave. Actually, can you pass it up? Because I'll do a demo of how it works. With the 21 millimeter, which is what this guy is right here, the depth of field on this lens is insane. So at f8, the depth of field is about 3 feet to infinity. So with this lens, you just don't focus. You set it at hyperfocal, you point, you shoot, it's crystal clear. And this lens is the sharpest lens I have ever worked with, ever. It's very expensive, but it is incredibly sharp. So that lens, that's how that works. There's a little tab on the bottom of these lenses. And what you'll learn is, you'll start to learn the distance. And so you'll learn, okay, that's infinity. This is the closest, which on this guy right here is about 2 feet. That's about 6 feet, 8 feet. And so you'll sort of pre-focus, and then I'll show you guys here. Yeah, there's the tab. So you sort of pre-focus, and you're pretty darn close to where you need to be. And so by the time you bring this up to you can just sort of click, and there you go. The thing that this has changed with my photography, though, is you have to be so much more deliberate with this camera than you are with a Nikon, Sony, whatever, any autofocus system. And so I find myself really slowing down, composing, interacting, and so I have fewer shots, but the shots to me are more meaningful because I'm much more in the moment and in the space because of that. And so it's sort of, is it a disadvantage that you have to go slower? I say no, it's actually an advantage because you're actually interacting at a higher level than you would be if you just were sort of shooting, machine gun style. So again, it's a different experience with this camera. And by the way, because this is a rangefinder camera, the other question I get all the time is why not a Sony A7R2 or a Fujifilm, the new X Pro 2? Is that what it is? Yeah. Those guys. And I have, I think, all the Fuji cameras except the X Pro 2. They're fantastic. The difference is they're electronic viewfinders, EVF cameras, and this is a rangefinder, and they're radically different. And EVF, you're still looking through the lens. You still have autofocus. It's really bright, and depending on the camera, the resolution isn't so high. If you're shooting at night, you're blinding your eye. You don't see. It's a totally different experience. And so I don't think Adorama rents these, but if you can find a photo club or somebody that will let you borrow one of these or follow along and shoot with one of these for a day, or you can they have used rangefinder cameras. Any rangefinder camera is going to do, an Argus or something. You'll discover that for me, it was the same experience as when I got my first DSLR camera. It was like a whole new way of photographing. It was like, oh my gosh, I'm in love with photography again. And yeah, so it's not the same. And I think, and I've shot with the Sonys and the Fujis. It just feels like a normal SLR camera with a wonky viewfinder. And I'm not a fan of electronic viewfinders. But for what it is, that's what it is. All right. Yes, sir. Do we have a question?
I have a few.
Okay, more questions online. And if there are other questions, we still have time.
Ask about the trip. Do you plan to make any books or prints and monetize?
Oh yeah, books or prints. So a lot of people have asked me if I will write a book about the trip. Like, you should write a book about your trip around the world. And I said, why? And they're like, oh, that'd be great. I'd read it. And I said, okay, have you ever read a travel book in your life? Well, no. Well, there are thousands of them. So people just don't read them. So I don't know if I want to spend the time and effort to write a book that nobody's going to read, except for maybe my sister. As far as the photo books, yes. In fact, I think Adorama picks in the future, I might be speaking out of turn, but I guess we're doing it now because I'm going to say it. I think they're going to raffle off some of the prints of the shots that I took, big prints. And so I think the only reason we're not doing it tonight is I didn't get it ready in time. So we'll have that. And then as far as a book, I don't know. Maybe, maybe not. We'll have to see. My dad wants one, so I guess I should do it. All right.
When will you be in India again?
Would I like to be in India again? So I've visited. Oh, when am I going to be in India again? I don't know. India is the place I've visited more than anywhere else in the world. I've been there 6 times now. So the imaginary plan right now on the motorcycle is to go south through Mexico, hit all the way down to Panama, take a boat or a plane over to Colombia all the way down and across to Buenos Aires, take a ship over to Africa, do southern and eastern Africa, take a ship, go to Western Australia, Western Australia, up through Indonesia, Southeast Asia, across up into the Himalayas, up to Lhasa, dip back down into India. So that would probably be, a year and a half from now? And then down, zip over through Pakistan, up through Iran, over to Turkey, and then exit somewhere in Europe, and then back to the United States. Also, traveling helps you with geography quite a bit. You should try it out. It's really nice. All right, there's a question right here. Yeah, we'll pass the microphone back to you. Please pass the mic back. Here you go. I feel like Price is Right. I'm Drew Carey. There you go, sir.
Well, thanks for sharing.
Yeah.
But my question is, in your travels, have you become linguistic to embrace the interaction with the people that you've shot?
I'm linguistically challenged. So I know how to say por la cuenta to get la quinta, yeah. I can't even get that right. And no, I'm horrible. So I learned a little bit of Spanish, but that's about it. And the reason I think for that is at the pace that we were going, even though we went pretty slow through South America, and obviously in Australia, English, New Zealand, English. In Southeast Asia, most people speak English. A lot of people speak English, so it's not, you don't need to learn a language to interact in Southeast Asia. The same is true of India and Nepal. And then when you get to Europe, English. So you don't really need to know a foreign language to get by. And because we were in a new country every 2 to 3 weeks, it just wasn't realistic to learn 28 languages or 5 languages, let's say. If I was going to go stay in, let's say, Ecuador, which is, by the way, one of the best, most amazing countries in the world, and I was going to live there for a year, then I would really buckle down and I'd learn some Spanish. Or if I was going to live in Paris, I'd learn French, or you name it. So no, I think that because of the pace of the trip, I didn't do that. What I did do is some of the people that I showed earlier that I met, I would meet locals, and then they would help translate and tell me things and fill me in on the things that I was missing through the language. But I think if you talk to most travel gurus, they'll tell you 2 things that you have to do to really understand a culture. And the first is the language, and the second is the food. And so I just didn't have time to do the language, but the food, all in, and sometimes all out. But yeah, it's pretty good. All right, yes, use that mic, there you go.
Can you give us an idea of the cost of doing
Yeah,
this?
absolutely. So here's another myth. It's really expensive. It's not. So the budget was $50 a day. That's what it was. So do in your mind the math of how much you earn every month, gross, and then how much you spend, or maybe net. And I'll bet you it's more than $50 a day living where you live. We're talking hotels, food, transportation, everything.
That includes the airfare.
Includes the airfare. Yep. Yeah. So, and so sometimes I think I haven't done all the numbers and everything, but I think we've stayed pretty close to around $50 a day. I will show you this though. when we're talking about $50 a day, let me just show you the kind of places that you live in. So this is one of the hostels, and it wasn't really a hostel, but it was just a room. That's the kind of luxury bathroom you get. You get places like, that's outside our hotel in New Delhi. So yeah, there are some places like that. We got dropped off in Guayaquil, Ecuador, and we thought, oh, what have we done? That's outside of the little hotel we stayed in. Luxurious rooms like this. So yeah, it's not 5-star resorts by any stretch. And that was probably one of the nicer rooms, that one right there. And that's, I hope I'm not showing any of Lex's. Okay, yeah, that's the laundry, because we would just do laundry in the sink and hang it in the room and it would dry, etc. Yeah, so it's not luxurious at all, but you can do it. The cost is that you have to give up everything. So everything you own, if you're going to do it, well, that's what I had to do. And but it gives you the freedom to, if you need to stay in a place that's inexpensive for a week or 2 or 3 to make up so you can spend more money someplace else, you can. And so Ecuador, I know we stayed in a little town called Mindo, which if you want to go and have a fantastic vacation, go to Mindo, Ecuador. It's this little cloud city. It's like 300 people, I think. I think we were there for 3 or 4 weeks, and it was $400 for everything. Food, entertainment, hotel, the works. And so you can do that, and then you can go to Paris and stay for a week, and it's $1,000, and you sort of balance out. So that's how it works. Yes, sir.
Are there countries where you can't take pictures of people on the street? I thought I read.
Are there countries where you can't take pictures of people on the street? I'm sure, and I'm sure I broke the law, but I'm not aware of what those countries are. Certainly, I would not do that in North Korea or a place like that. But I'm not aware of any place. We did get in trouble in France a couple times. So I was shooting an Adorama video that never got published because about halfway through it, we found out that the building behind us was the Senate building. And so they got mad and kicked us out. And who knew? We got in trouble shooting in some of the parks in Paris and at the Louvre. We got in trouble. So yeah, we got in trouble all the time, but never got arrested. Got arrested in Nepal a lot, but that's a different story. Anyway, okay, yes, there's a question back there.
Now that we see more mirrorless camera and seeing your experience with this Leica, what do you think is the future of the big DSLR? Because I'm kind of getting tired of this bag carrying around.
Well, I think, so the Leica cameras have been around for over 100 years, so that's not new at all. That's old. But the mirrorless stuff, I think Lee from F-Stoppers, I don't know if anybody's read this, but I think the F-Stoppers did a comparison about, is the Sony all that compared to like the 5D Mark III, et cetera. And they had some interesting results. I'll let you read the article. I think it was F-Stoppers. So I don't know. I think right now it's sort of the thing is to go mirrorless. I haven't had the opportunity to shoot with any of the mirrorless cameras for much time at all, except for the Fujifilm X Pro 1, which I own. I love that. I've made a bunch of videos with it. But in my experience, it doesn't replace an SLR camera for sports or for studio work. Not at all. In fact, and this is just me. So I've been traveling around, so I don't have access to all these cameras. I've just had the cameras that I had with me. But in my experience, if I were to move back today, open the studios again and start shooting, I would probably get a medium format camera and go larger because of the dynamic range and the resolution and how it resolves the quality of the lens. And so that's probably what I'd do. I don't think more megapixels is the answer at all. I think 24 megapixels is more than enough. And one of the things I did in Germany, I went to Wetzlar, which is where they manufacture Leica cameras. And I hung out where Oscar Barnack, who's the guy that invented 35 millimeter film and did all this stuff. I just geeked out. It was awesome. So I talked to the guys that built these lenses. So they're the best lenses, arguably the best lenses ever made in the history of photography. And so I talked to some of the guys that were retired, some of the guys that were working on the factory floor, and they walked me through resolution and contrast and how they resolve chromatic aberration and the lens elements and just all this stuff. And I felt like I was a complete idiot. That's how I'm like, oh my gosh, these guys know so much. And what I learned was most digital cameras can't resolve the image that comes through a high-end lens. So the sensor's not even capable of capturing what the lens is projecting. And so that's why I would go to a larger sensor, larger camera for me. I'm not a wedding shooter though, you know, and I don't do all that kind of stuff. So maybe I'd have a different opinion, but in the studio, I'd still go big. And for me, if I wasn't shooting the rangefinder, I think, I don't know, I'd consider any camera, I guess, at this point. The other camera I use all the time, by the way, is this guy. This is, it's not a GoPro, it's a Garmin Verb. And most people don't even know about these things. But this is similar to a GoPro. It doesn't have as high a quality or higher resolution sensor. This one I think is only 16, which I think 10 years ago I paid $8,000 for a 16 megapixel camera. It's crazy. But what these guys do is they have GPS devices built in. And so it tracks everywhere it's going. It tracks all kinds of data. Just look up Garmin Verb and look at the videos. It's really amazing. The other thing it allows me to do is that I can pair 2, 3, or 4 of these, and the time code is synced between them. So when I'm doing multi-camera editing, all that is done. So if you're a video editor, that's awesome. And the battery life on the Verbs, I've got the older Verb. That Verb has a battery life of over 3 hours, nonstop. And if you have a GoPro, you know you just can't get that. And then this has the dive case. This is the dive case. This can go down to, I think it's 60 meters or something crazy. So, and I think they're less expensive than the GoPro. But I use those cameras all the time. All right, sorry. So that was a long answer to that question. More questions online?
Yeah. Someone was asking about insuring your gear.
Okay, insurance and, yes.
I was just wondering, when you were overseas, did you use your camera for wildlife photography?
No. So the question was, did I use my camera for wildlife photography? I didn't. I think the best I did was this. Yeah, or this. Actually, no, I did some stuff in the Galapagos with some lizards and stuff, but realistically, no. I didn't do wildlife photography. I love dogs. I love mutts, dogs of all types, cats, you name it. So I've got tons of pictures of these little dogs that I would meet all over the place, and we'd invite them in and wash them and that kind of stuff. But no serious wildlife photography, I'd say, except for those birds that I showed you, which I'm not too excited about. And I think I did a couple things in the Galapagos, but that was about it. And then somebody asked about insurance. Is my gear insured? And yes, it is absolutely insured. So this bag, when it's fully loaded, it's got about $30,000 of gear in it, which that is like the most valuable thing. So I have insurance through the Hartford, which I got through USAA, which is a great insurance company. And so that's how I've got that insured. But also, if you're a member of PPA, they offer insurance as well. So yeah, and this is insured so that if it's lost, stolen, smashed, anything, it's full replacement value. And I forgot what I'm spending on that, but it's not so much that I remember what it is. Yeah. All right. Any other? Yes, sir.
We didn't talk a lot about post-processing of the photos that you showed us.
Yes. I'm a huge believer in post-production, and I'll show you a couple of things here. So I think that, for example, this is an HDR image. So that was, I think, a series of 5 shots. And then I just did the post-production in Lightroom. So Lightroom now lets you drop everything in, do a HDR image. And I think it works better than any plugin that I've used in the past. Black and white conversions, I do a lot of post-production. But I think one of my favorite videos, by the way, that I've ever done is how to do black and white conversions through digital files. And so if you don't know about the zone system and histograms and all that stuff, I highly recommend that you watch that, and it sort of walks through how to do that kind of stuff. So any black and white conversion is not a simple click on black and white, but it's that and then managing the zones. things like this. So these two images here, so this first one and this second one, they're the same river at the same time. And you notice this one's warm and this one's cool. And so I just thought this one looked better warmer, so I changed the color temperature. This one I thought looked better cooler, and I changed the color temperature. So they're the same image, but I just artistically said I want one to be blue and I want one to be a little bit warmer. Things like this image here. This was a candid shot. This, by the way, is one of those pictures I took and I didn't ask permission because this guy was sitting in a restaurant and I couldn't talk through the glass. So he has no idea he's been seen all over the world. Yeah, this image was cropped. And what I'll do on the Leica generally, or any camera, is I usually open up the shadows and make the blacks a little bit more pronounced, almost always. Contrast, not much was done on this. Things like this, really there's not any kind of post-production at all. No post-production on this. Isn't that crazy? That's no flash at night with the Leica. That's 1.4. It's just, I love it. These, just the black and white processing. I think this image was cropped just a little bit. I do some tonality adjustments. But the one that really stands out to me is this image here. And so let me show you what I did on this because it is sort of crazy. That's the original file. I know. That's what you get with a Leica. So this is an HDR. So that sensor records so much data that you can go in and pull that out. I know, it's crazy. Before, after. And so the adjustments on that are all with the tonality sliders in Lightroom. That's it. So it's opening up the shadows, taking the blacks down, adjusting the midpoint, that kind of stuff. And so that's probably the most blatant, extreme post-production I've done. And I made a video about it, so you can watch that. Yeah, so does that answer the question? Okay. Question way back in the back.
Do you use filters on your lenses?
Yes. Do I use filters on my lenses? I have one neutral density filter. I think it's a 10-stop filter, and that's it. I would love to have a gradient neutral density filter. I'd love to have some warming and cooling filters, some polarizing filters, etc. But because I was always in a different country, I could never order them and have them delivered on time. And so tomorrow I'm going on a shopping spree. So that's one, yes. But I do use filters. Yes, back there still. Yes, question about the HDR photo. I'm just repeating what you say so they can hear us on the internet. The cathedral? Oh, this. Okay, that's not HDR. But to go from that to that, it took about 8 minutes, maybe 6 minutes, 5 minutes. I don't know. You can watch it in real time in the video. So it's just like 5 sliders. That's it. Yeah, it's not that much. Yes, right back here. What's the best way to learn about post-production is to buy my workshop on Lightroom. You can find it at snapfactory.com. No, I think that's the best way. No, there are several ways. I think that you should have a solid understanding of several things. One, the histogram. You need to know what a histogram is and how to read it. You should understand what color temperature is, and you should understand basic color theory, what RGB is, what CMYK is, so that you know how to convert things. So those are some of the basic foundational things that you should learn. You can learn those things, of course, in my workshops, but there are a ton of videos and tutorials at the Adorama Learning Center. It's totally free, and I think I've taught all of that stuff in my digital photography one-on-one videos that I did for Adorama. So maybe I'll do a blog entry and try to lay out what those things are. Once you learn that, it becomes much easier to understand what those sliders are doing in Lightroom. And you'll know what the exposure means and how that works with the midpoint and understanding if you're clipping stuff and how to read what's going on in the histogram and the color histogram and color channels and all that kind of stuff. So I think once you learn those things, color theory, the histogram, and maybe a little of the zone system, then everything else will sort of fall into place. All right. Yes, sir.
If you had days where you left your big gear
Yes.
someplace in the hotel room,
Right.
and you wanted to do shoot light with your phone, say,
Yes.
where did you leave it?
All right. That's a fantastic question. The question is, where did I leave this bag when I wasn't using it? And the answer is, I never left it. Never. So what I would do, I would leave this bag, but the camera went with me everywhere. And normally, I've got these little clips, these little carabiner clips on here. These little guys are on my bag. Normally, I would take this, and if I had my strap, because sometimes people just walk by and they're just, you don't even know it. They have your stuff. So what I would do a lot of times is this would be wrapped around my leg, and this would actually be attached to my body somehow. Just so, and the reason I did that was I was doing a meetup in London a few years ago, and there were about 16 people in a little coffee shop. I mean, very small coffee shop like this. And the guy sitting next to me just jumped up and ran out the door. We were all like, what the heck? And what none of us, and I still don't know how this happened, this guy walked through, grabbed his camera bag, and walked out the door, and nobody saw it. And it was like us right here drinking coffee. And he saw it and ran and tackled him and got his stuff back. But I thought, man, that guy just took a bag literally by my foot. And I didn't even see the guy. I don't know how it happened. And so I've always attached my stuff physically to myself after that. Yes, yes, ma'am.
Okay, so food. How much street food did you actually eat?
Food, so fortunately, Lex she's an herbalist and a cook, and food is her thing. And so she would go and buy fresh vegetables and fruit, and she cooked a lot. And I was an unintentional vegetarian for a long time. But the street food, you just sort of have to use your common sense about that. After you've been traveling for a while, then drinking the water and eating street food becomes a little bit less chaotic than if you just go for a week and come back. Your body sort of adapts to those germs. So we did, in some areas, we would just drink the water right out of the tap, which is crazy. But what we also used were these little things called SteriPens. Is that what they called? Yeah, it's like a little light thing that you stick and it actually uses UV rays to kill bugs. So we used those a lot. And I tended to eat more street food than Lex did. And the only time I really, really got sick was in Vietnam. And it was in Hanoi and in Ho Chi Minh City. I just couldn't eat anything except for KFC because I just got sick every single time. And we had a 30-hour train ride from Ho Chi Minh City to Hanoi. And we didn't buy any food before we hopped on the train, which was stupid. And so I just thought, okay, I'll just eat what they sell. And it's like some guy with boiling cauldrons of stuff. And I ate some and was really horribly ill. And then sat back down and thought, glad that's over. And then about 8 hours later, I was starving, so I ate some more. And then again, just the most horrible projectile vomiting I've ever had. So that was the worst experience I had. Other than that, things were fine. I would say that I also learned that you can't buy what we would consider normal medications in countries, things like Imodium, which you should just stock up buckets of that. NyQuil, Dayquil, any kind of, what is this stuff that's in Excedrin and Advil and that stuff, like normal painkillers and stuff. Ibuprofen, yeah. That stuff is really difficult to get in a lot of countries. And so we would try to have friends bring it to us when we met them. But other than that, yeah, you just sort of go with it. It's not so bad. Yes, sir.
How have you earned money with this experience?
If you go to snapfactory.com, I've got workshops for sale. No, so the way that I earn a living is several ways. Obviously, I'm making videos for Adorama, and I don't do that for free. In some places, I'm able to do workshops, like Paris and Spain and Portugal, places like that. There are opportunities to do workshops. And then I try to create new content on my paid workshop site so people can buy that. And that's it. And then I have I think about 500 videos now on YouTube. And so I've got Adorama TV videos, but then I also have my own channel, Snap Factory, that some people don't know about. But that has ads on those videos. And so Google sends me a small paycheck every month. And then I've done Creative Live workshops, and so I get quarterly income. So it's mostly residuals, and then owning nothing. It's I just don't have any bills. That's really the key to that. Yes, my sister.
First of all, Dad says he's proud that you're his son.
Oh, yay, thanks, Dad.
And do you think that now that everybody is a photographer, everybody has a camera in their hand, does that elevate the quality of photography, or does that dilute it?
I don't think it does either thing. So the question is, since now everybody's a photographer, does that elevate or dilute the quality of photography? Is that fair? Yeah, so I don't think that it's going to change much as far as how great photographers shoot, and it's not going to change much about how really bad photographers shoot. I think what it has done is it's changed the photo industry radically, even from 10 years ago. And so competition for wedding photography, for senior portraits, for event photography, that kind of stuff, is much more fierce, and it's driven prices down in some places, and I think that's bad. And then it's also given rise to this entire culture of online teacher people, and some of them are bald and they don't know what they're talking about. But yeah, and so that's like a new industry that really didn't exist much before YouTube existed. And so I think you'd be hard-pressed 10 years ago to say, here are the 8 best photography instructors in the country. We didn't have that. And now it's like, I watch Zach Arias and I watch Chase Jarvis and I think that Gavin Hoey's the best. No, this guy's the best. Daniel Norton is awesome. And so there's a new culture, which I'm sort of glad, because that's how I earn my money. So anyway, yeah, I don't know if that's a good answer or not, but I don't think it's changed the quality much at all. Yes, sir?
Random question. How many images did you shoot of these?
How many images? I don't know. Let me see. 16,358 in this catalog, so probably we're talking close to 30,000. Yeah, about 30,000. Yes, sir?
How did you manage the logistics? Navigating, finding places to stay?
That was the fun part. So when Lex and I decided to do this trip, we said we're going to go with no plan and no timelines, and we did. And so the only real thing that we had to do in advance was do the visa work. And let me show you something that's sort of amazing as far as visas are concerned. So this is where anything that's green or light green, that's where if you're a US citizen, you can sort of just show up or get a visa on arrival. Just a couple of places you have to get something in advance. So Australia, India, Brazil, I'm not sure where that is, but that African country. Yeah, so other than that, you just sort of show up. And so that makes it really easy. As far as places to stay, I would either go on Expedia because you get points and they give you free places to stay after you earn so many, which is great. Or in a lot of places, we would just show up and we would literally walk until we found a place to stay, and we'd go in and stay there. And we didn't really have any bad experiences except maybe once where we stayed in a place that was pretty nasty. Other than that, yeah, so that's pretty much what I said. The logistics were pretty simple for what we did, yeah. Yes, back there. They are stored. Yeah. So the methodology, and this isn't the one, the actual hard drive is underneath there, but I have these LaCie hard drives. And so what I would do is after I took the picture, I would go through Lightroom and store it on this hard drive. And then because the internet is so limited in so many countries, it's not realistic to upload those raw files to Dropbox or some place to store in the cloud. It would just take hours. In fact, a lot of the videos that I made for Adorama would take up to 6 days to upload just for a video. I know, it was crazy. And so uploading the pictures, it just wasn't realistic. So what I did was I just stored them on here, and then I would take the winners, the ones that were marked as the best of that trip or whatever, and then I would export high-resolution JPEG images of those to an off-site storage Dropbox is what I used. And so if this were to die, then I'd be out of luck, which is high risk. But just because of the practicality and the logistics of that, that's how it happened. When I came back to the United States, the first thing I did was back all that up on multiple hard drives. Yes? Yep. So in that case, this computer right here, this is the actual computer, the MacBook Pro, 3 hard drives, one for video, one for photos, and then one was a backup hard drive for critical things. I carried my Leica, 3 lenses, a couple of extra viewfinders, a video camera, chargers, extra batteries, cable release, ND filter, lens cleaners, charger for my laptop, a flashlight, the Garmin Verb, a blower, and I think that's it. And that's 20 pounds. Very heavy. Yes, sir.
So back to logistics.
Back to logistics, okay?
Do you ever use a guide or somebody from the host country?
Yes. Yes. So do I ever use a guide or someone from a host country? Absolutely. In some places, specifically Lex did for her, her research. She was doing research on herbs and other things, and so she would hire a translator and a guide and things. But we visited tea fields and places like that, and we definitely got some guides to help us learn where to go, or we would meet local people and they would help us with that. But absolutely, that's sort of how you plug in is through that. Yes, sir.
So you started out with Canon, am I understanding that correctly?
Yes.
First year, and then you switched over to or incorporated Leica?
Yeah, I actually switched everything out.
Switched everything out.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, so I didn't sell my, like I still own all my Canon stuff. And by the way, I still own Nikon stuff and Canon stuff and Mamiya stuff and Fujifilm. And I've got 22 or 3 cameras, something like that. So I was using a pickaxe and I needed a shovel. And so I switched tools. That's how I think about it.
So did you ever find, while you were shooting with the Leica, that you may have wanted to have gone
Yeah.
to the Canon?
I want to say yes, but no, I really didn't. But there are some things that I shot that I wish I had something that would focus a little faster. I wonder if I can find, I might have this image in here. Let me look really, really quickly. Maybe. Well, I was going to say that, so in Paris, we discovered that we were there during the Tour de France. And yeah, I don't have the image right here. But at the finish line, we accidentally got out at the finish line of the Tour de France when it was finishing, which is awesome. And so I caught the riders going across the finish line. It was spectacular. And I thought, man, I wish I had, to be able to shoot. But the Leica handled it just fine. So it was a different kind of photo than I would have taken had I had that. All right, I think we have time for, like, what, 2 questions? Something like that? Something like that? Or until people pass out. Yes, ma'am.
Have you sold a lot of your stuff to travel magazines or magazines or books, what have you?
Yeah, so the question is, have I sold any of the prints anywhere? No, not a single one. But that's not how I earn my living. And so for me, that doesn't make sense. So technically, I have. So all of you have seen videos that I've made. You have purchased my prints just because you've watched those. And so by watching those, Adorama is advertising and they're paying me so you can see those prints. So you can go, man, I wish I had that camera. And then you buy that camera and they make money. So that's essentially how that works, is I'm shooting ads for Adorama. Yeah. Yes, sir. Yes, that's a great question. So the question is, do I sort of visualize the aspect ratio? 16 by 9, 8 by 10, 5 by 7, 4 by 3, etc. And because everything I shoot potentially has to be in a video, I'm constantly seeing things in a 16 by 9 aspect ratio or horizontally. And so it's funny, if you go 2007 and back to the 80s, almost everything I shot was portrait, vertical, 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 because I was shooting portraits. And I had to train myself to see things landscape, because portraits in a video have too much space. And so yeah, I'm always trying to figure out how to do a portrait in landscape mode, which I think I've sort of figured it out, but they're always cropped too tight, etc. But that's sort of the way it works. But you can see things like that's a landscape shot, even though normally I would do that portrait, or that's a landscape shot, and that's a landscape shot. So these probably things I would do in the past as portraits, but now I do them as landscapes. All right, other questions? Any other online questions?
Somebody's asking what city inspires you the most.
What cities?
Or what city?
What city inspired me the most? Man, that's the question I always get. What's your favorite place in the world? The place I'm in. I would say Paris is just Paris. It's spectacular. Go to Paris because of the museums, of the art, of the photography, of the community. Paris is just spectacular. That's why we stayed there for 10 weeks. But other than that, I think two places really stand out to me as just more than I expected. And the first is Ecuador. So I went to Ecuador. We literally were flying from the Bahamas to Quito to fly down to Lima to go hike Machu Picchu. And we found that the flight to Quito was a lot less expensive than going straight to Lima. And so we arrived in Quito thinking we'd be there for about 3 days. And we left Ecuador 3 months later because we just kept finding cities like Mindo and Baños and Quito, and it's just an amazing place. We went to the Galapagos. So Ecuador, I can't wait to go back there. It's beautiful. The people are great. The food is wonderful. It's a fantastic place. South America in general was a surprise to me. I thought all the food was going to be like Mexican food. It's not. And I don't know, I was really surprised about how wonderful South America was. And then the other place that was just spectacularly beautiful, the people were amazing. It's probably the most hospitable place we visited. It just feels like getting a big hug from your mom, is going to Australia. Australia is just, we have an Australian here. I'm not saying that because you're here, but it's true. And let me just tell you a quick story about this, because do I have it? I know I have it in here. Yeah. So we're zipping along. We decided we would camp in Australia. That was our plan. We rented a minivan. It was a camper van, and we camped out. We had all these little rooms and everything. It was really awesome. Well, one of us was driving, not me, and got stuck in Australia. And this looks obvious, like don't drive in that mud, but it just rained. And then it's blazing hot, and so it dries the top of the mud, and you don't know. You're just driving, and then all of a sudden, shpunk, now you're stuck. Like, really, really stuck, good. So what we did was we were headed to this campground that was 15 kilometers away, and so we just walked. We just got our stuff, and we just walked. And as we were walking, one of the most beautiful sunsets ever. I don't have the pictures here to show you, but just beautiful sunset. There were kangaroos zipping by. There's this red clay, all this stuff. It's just like this amazing thing. And we were thinking, who gets to do this? Like this is our life. We just get to go and walk and do all this kind of stuff, and it doesn't matter. We're not late for anything. It's fantastic. We ended up, this guy drove by. He was in a big 4x4 truck. He was one of the station or ranchers, I guess you would call them here. So these are huge ranches of like hundreds of thousands of acres, these huge places. And so there were like 4 stations, ranches that would, like once a week, they would all drive to one house and they would have a big cookout, and they would actually slaughter a cow or something, and they would cook it up. And we just happened to be walking down the road when that was going to happen. And this guy was like, hey, guys, hop in the truck. And we hopped in the truck. And he said, I'll go pull you out with the chain, have a beer. And we had a beer in the truck. And then he pulled us out and drove us down. And then the woman that owned the house said, here, set your tent up in front of my house. And we did. And we stayed there for 4 or 5 days. And we got to hang out with all the cattle and the cows and the kangaroos. And we met the family. And we just hung out with this family. It was awesome. So, yeah, Australia. It's spectacular. Anyway, sorry, I could go on and on about Australia. You just got to go. It's fantastic. Again, not because you're here, but it's really awesome. Yes, sir.
Yeah, I was just wondering, during your travels and while you're taking pictures, were you ever in a situation or several situations where you had to custom make something or some kind of homemade solution
Yes.
for a picture, like let's say a reflector or diffuser?
Yeah, so the question is, did I ever have to custom make something? The only time I can really think of that, I bought a speed light, an old a Leica speed light, and I was going to do I wanted to get back to do some artificial light kind of stuff, but then I found out that the old Leica speed light that I had didn't have a connector to trigger from a Pocket Wizard, and then I had to find like a little slide-on adapter that was from Russia somewhere and like sort of rig all that stuff up. So I did that, and it just didn't work out, and so those pictures never came to life. But other than that, the gear that I had it worked. And so that's the thing, get good gear. And it doesn't have to be expensive. The tripods that I use were Benro tripods. They're only a couple $100, carbon fiber. And I would stick those on the outside of my backpack and throw them on the airplane. And they're just banged up and stuff. The other thing I would say, if you have a camera and there's no scratch on your camera, then you're doing something wrong. Your stuff should be scratched, dinged, dented. Your camera should be abused. And if it isn't, then you're not doing it right. So yeah, that's the other thing. If you get good gear, you can do that. Like I was showing my sister my camera, and she's like, oh, I don't want to break it. And we were at a restaurant, and I took a fork and started smashing the top of it. I'm like, no, look, it's fine. That's true, right? I did that, yes. So anyway, yeah, don't worry about breaking your stuff. Because if it does get broken, you can just fix it. Just take it, they'll fix it. They're made to break and be fixed. So that's my thing. All right, any other questions? And I think we'll do one more, and then we'll wrap it up. Anything? Anything? Oh, there's one right back here. Yes, sir. Oh, yeah, okay. That's awesome. So you can, I don't want to spend too much time because I'm sure all of you guys aren't motorcycle people. But if you are a motorcycle person, you've watched Long Way Around, Long Way Down, you've read Ted Simon, you've done all of that stuff. You have to prepare a lot. So I'm working with Touratech in Seattle. So I've got a BMW R1200 GS Adventure. So I've added reinforcement to the crash bars. I've done an Expedition skid plate that goes through the entire thing. I've got the custom panniers that I've added on there. I relocated the vent for the rear drive shaft so I can cross through deeper water. Bunches of things. But I'm going to write about all of that on the markonabike.com website, because I figure most photographers don't care about motorcycle stuff, and I'm a motorcycle junkie. But I'd be happy to talk to you all about that, because I've just spent the last month or two ordering parts and ratcheting and all that kind of stuff on the bike. And I haven't published any of those pictures yet, because I wanted to make sure I could do it first. So I didn't tell anybody I was doing this until I actually had enough money saved up to buy the bike. And now that I have, I can tell the world, I'm riding around the world on a motorcycle. It's going to be fun. Yes, sir. I don't know. So I do know this. The motorcycle adventure is going to be separate than the photography stuff, because they're two different stories. The motorcycle trip is man against the world on a machine, and can he endure and do all that kind of stuff. And I am going to monetize that by making it a subscription adventure show on Vimeo. And so that's all that stuff. And so it'll show up in the Adorama videos of me on a motorcycle taking pictures somewhere, but I just don't think photographers are going to want to hear about oil changes in the middle of the desert and, fixing tires and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, so it's going to be $5 a month, I think. So yeah, markonabike.com, that's all the motorcycle stuff. And plus there's like a huge community of motorcyclists that travel around the world, and I can't wait to get plugged into that. But I've been working on that for about I'd say, Heather, when did I send out the thing originally? 8 months ago? It said, hey, I'm going to ride around. So yeah, I've been working on it for about 8 months. I just haven't told anybody because I didn't know if I was going to have enough money to do it. So there you go. All right, any last questions? Yes, sir.
So while you're traveling and while you're in places that you can't communicate, who tends to your business back at home?
That's a fantastic question. So one of the things that I want to make clear is this is not a solo endeavor. So I've got some friends that have really, really helped out for years. So Craig Bolton is one of my best friends in Arizona. He has, if you've seen any of the old digital photography one-on-one videos and a lot of the Snap Factory videos, the stuff that grew into Adorama TV, this guy Craig helped for free for years. He was a student. We became really good friends. And Craig now goes and gets my mail, scans it, sends it to me, deposits checks. He does all of that stuff just out of friendship. Keith and Maggie Kessler, also really good friends of mine. They're letting me sleep in their spare bedroom while I'm working on my bike in their garage. Brian Smythe is another good friend of mine. He took care of my truck and trailer until I picked it up and sold it so I could pay for my motorcycle. Norm and Karen Beer in Oregon, they are the dog parents to my little puppies, and so they adopted my dogs, and so they send me updates on what the dogs are doing about 4 times a week, maybe more. And I can Skype with my pups and everything, and I've been there twice since I got back. I actually flew to Oregon just to see my dogs, flew back, and then drove back to see them again. So I'm sure I'm forgetting somebody, but yeah, I have all these friends that there's a really nice community of photographers and friends in Phoenix, and without them, I wouldn't be able to do it. And so that's how that's done. And they don't get paid for it. They do it just because they're my friends, and I couldn't pay them because I don't have enough money to do that. So yeah, they're just amazing people. All right, any last questions online? If not, we're going to say thank you. No? Yes? Okay. Thank you so much for coming out. I'm going to hang out here until everybody leaves. And if you want to see like maybe higher resolution images on the computer, zoom in and out, the resolution of the Leica, or ask questions or talk about motorcycles or any of that kind of stuff, I'm just going to be here. And then after I'm here, I'm probably going to go get some food somewhere and have a beverage. And anybody that wants to go, come on. And yeah, so I'm available to anybody that wants to ask any question. So thank you guys for coming out. And thank you, Webb.